Let me interact. Desktop audio. All right, I'm live. Mike, can they hear you?
Yeah, I'm here.
There
You
he
there?
is. Check, check. We are here live. Welcome to another edition of the PokéStew with Mike and Jen. We're trying Discord tonight instead of Skype, so knock on wood that this will be a little bit more successful for us.
Knock on wood. Lord.
Oh Lord. I may be a little bit crazy today because I had a 20-hour flight back from Sydney.
Oh, woe is me.
Dude, don't even start, because 15 hours in a plane in one seat and you can't move and your legs hurt is like the worst experience. Torture upon torture. Go. I'm thinking really nasty things at you right now, Mike.
Did
Seriously.
you not stay in Australia for like a week and hang out with kangaroos and other animals that want to kill you,
So,
and Pokemon players
that the
and
Pokemon players that want to kill you?
and have gay time and all kinds of stuff like that? Did you not do that?
Okay,
And
so wait, wait,
I
wait.
was
So wait,
doing
wait,
kid
wait,
things.
wait, wait, wait.
It's like below freezing and icy and nasty here, and work, and oh yeah.
I hate you. I didn't get to see kangaroos, so we oh, thank you
How
for the
did you
host,
not see a
Tommy.
kangaroo? You went to Australia.
Shut up, hold on. Tommy just hosted me. Thank you for the host, Tommy. Anyway. No, so we get in at like 8 o'clock. We have to go through security. It's like 8 in the morning, go through security, and then we decided to wait on some of the London TCPI or TPCI. TPCI. I don't know why I just said TCP. I've never done that before. The TPCI employees from London to come in, and then their plane got stopped off at Perth, and it was a whole big thing. So we didn't get to the Olympic Village, which is where the event was happening, until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it was like check in and stuff like that. And now it's gross. And we're all gross from being like, because we left on Monday. Like, I left
Wait,
on
time
Monday
out.
morning. What?
You're already jumping into daily specials, and we haven't done our disclaimer.
Oh, jeez. All right. Sorry. Oh, well, you were talking about kangaroos, and I wanted to explain. I didn't get to see any. Go ahead.
Because
Do the.
somebody was whining. Oh, sorry. So welcome to I don't even know which episode of the PokéStew that we're doing tonight.
15.
It's
I don't even
in the
know.
teens, less than 20, I think. So, anyways,
It's not yet of age.
yeah, everything that you're going to hear tonight is the opinions of Mr. Mike and Miss Jen. We are not employed by Pokemon, the Pokemon Company International, Game Freak, Nintendo, or any of those things. So everything you hear is going to be our opinion, solely based upon research on the interwebs and solicited feedback from other people's from across the interwebs as well. So again, our opinion only. So now, with that out of the way, we can jump into our daily specials and recap Oceania Internationals, where Jen was already complaining about her extraneous travels.
Shut up. Shut up, okay? The 15-hour flight from LA to Sydney was awful. Awful. Awful.
Trade you.
Anyway. No, it's like really uncomfortable, and like my legs hurt like the entire time, and I had to sit next to Gio, who's not in chat, so he's not gonna get to vouch for
No
me
Gio.
here about how much not fun it was. But anyway, so we finally got to the Olympic Village, which is where the event was happening, and it's like 1 o'clock, and the zoo closes at 5, and we're an hour by train from anything. So the group that I was with decided, let's go out to the beach instead of go to see the animals. So that's why I didn't get to see kangaroos or koalas or anything else. I got to see bin chickens.
Did you see that giant snake thing and the bird?
Luckily, no.
Around each other?
We did see giant bats. One of the nights where we were coming back from the event, there were giant bats hanging around the hotel, and I ran inside. You can ask who was standing out there. I think Marcus and Mike Collins. I think that was Thursday night. They were all outside, and giant bats were above us, and it was scary. So
they swooped down. Whoa! Well, I don't know. I wasn't there.
I would have traded places with you, okay?
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Pants are not on fire.
Literally.
No.
So, besides your strenuous travel, how was Oceania?
So, the weather was really nice in Sydney. The people were really awesome in Sydney. It was a great time. Like Miguel is saying in chat, there were bin chickens everywhere. Those things are creepy. They look like plague rook mask things for heads, and then they have big white bodies, and they're scary as hell.
So
but they're like
US,
funny looking.
In the U.S., we have trash pandas. In Australia,
Yeah.
we have bin chickens.
Yep.
I would take a trash panda any day over a bin chicken. I think those should be two Pokemon. Fight.
Well, we already have trash pandas as Pokemon, don't we? Don't we have pandas Pokemon? No.
Not trash pandas. We have pandas.
But we have a trash Pokemon, so we could just combine them together.
Put them in the Pokemon breeding center.
Ew. Anyway, so
how'd the patch work out for you?
So the patch worked out really well. It wasn't 100% foolproof. Not that I expected it to be 100% foolproof, but it wasn't 100% foolproof. So we still had, I want to say, a little bit more than a handful of game freezes. Maybe like 2 or 3 around in a field of 200 or so masters. So in the grand scheme of things, way, 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 way improved from Dallas. But still affecting some people's games, unfortunately. I think we may have had 1 or 2 on stream. I'm not 100%, but I know that there was at least 1 on stream. I'm not sure the total count on that.
Oh, wow.
But most of the freezes we were seeing were different from the ones that we were experiencing in Dallas. So they were happening during team preview, immediately after the first ball throw out, so right before you would pick your first move selections, and then really early on, like 4-3 kind of situations. I think there may have only been 1 or 2 that I saw that were late game, like there was only like 2 or 3 mons left, or 1 or 2 mons left, or whatever.
Okay.
So again, the patch seems to be, it seems to have greatly improved the situation that we were dealing with. Also to note, this is, basically what happened last year with Sun and Moon when they did the first patch to fix the instabilities we were seeing. We still had a couple, and it took a couple of patches for them to finally mostly die down, because you're always, it's equipment. You're always going to have some kind of freezes, especially with the amount of data that gets transferred during live competition.
What did we end up with Sun and Moon? A patch, was it 1.3?
I want to say, no, I think 4. 1.4.
4?
Yeah,
Okay.
I feel like we were at 1.4 or 1.5 for nationals, because I remember
I don't
checking.
think 5.
No, I don't think it was 5. I think it was 4. I think 1.1 was the patch that we got after London, and then 2 and 3 we got shortly thereafter, or a couple weeks to a couple months after, and then 1.4 was, I want to say that was right before nationals, if I remember correctly, but
okay.
that is
good. Yeah, and one of the other things that came out immediately after the patch came out was a new rules drop. And another cool thing about the rules drop is, in addition to removing that section of the ban moves, which wasn't necessarily needed, but they did an extensive update to the manual hack check section, I think, regarding Pokeballs, right?
Yeah, the rules got completely like a physical looking, revamp. They got a style change, if you will. They made it look nice. And then, yes, there was a lot of things added to the manual hack checks. So if you're a judge, or I mean, honestly, if you're a player too, everybody should just be going and reading the new rules, just to make sure that you know what's going on and you can follow along. Pokeballs have been highlighted in this one. Pokemon that cannot legally have hidden power fighting have been updated, so that now that's accurate. There was a bunch of changes that to that regard.
Oh, Met levels.
And the Met levels, yeah, the ones that were in there incorrectly have also been fixed. So those are all updated as well. And again, like I said, the document also looks really nice and pretty. So thanks to Becca for that update.
Hey, take a screenshot of that one.
Do it again.
No.
I'm just gonna do it. I'll do it off my recording. That's it. And I'm gonna.
You're a turd.
Mike's picture came with me to Sydney, and I don't know where it is now because I don't have my binder with me. But Mike was on my binder in Sydney. Alex Underhill thought that you were coming physically, and he was like, "Where's my man Mike?" And I was like, "Here he is." And I held up my binder. He was like, "Oh man," he was so sad that you weren't there. And I was like, "I'm sorry. I thought everybody understood that it was the picture."
Oh, yeah. No.
So
I missed this one.
Yeah.
It's my white whale.
Next year you can go.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, so Oceana, any other major highlights, hiccups, pluses, minuses that you want
I
to
mean,
discuss? I know our main course kind of hits on one of the things that kind of hit you while you were there in
yeah.
Australia, and it's a good topic, and we've got a lot of feedback on it.
Mhm.
I just wanted to see if there's any other things we wanted to hit before we just kind of jump right into the main course. And my cat is spazzing out. Um,
I think everything went really well in terms of the tournament itself. Like I said, we had about 200 ish Masters players, I believe 40 ish seniors, and about 20 ish juniors.
nice.
Um, Monday, so Monday, I don't know why I just said Monday. So June Clanton was the overall head judge, but she named 3 assistant head judges for each division. I was Masters assistant head judge. Thomas from France was the seniors assistant head judge, and then Tom from Australia was the juniors head judge. And then Friday, obviously it was Masters. We did a stream. Everything went really well. And then Masters didn't hit the required number to get day 2 Swiss. So Masters on Saturday did all of top 8 and top 4 on the stream. And day 2, I kind of bounced back between that and doing announcements and kind of overseeing the juniors and seniors area. June kind of gave me the mic and said, "Here you go, this is yours. Have fun doing all the announcements." So I was bouncing back and forth. It was really cool because it kept me busy. And it also allowed me to kind of harass TPCI and ESL because they were going to basically end the stream after Masters were finished because we've never actually streamed anything other than finals for seniors. And they were kind enough to listen to me and others in our kind of harassing and begging to get the senior stream. Because listen, the bottom line is that the best of the best were flown out
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Sydney, and these kids deserved to be streamed, and so they were, which was really nice because we had some hype matches on stream.
Great.
I mean, I think they were all basically 2-0s, which, it happens. But the kids had a really great time, and it was very evident that they were happy to be on stream. So we were really thrilled to be able to do that. So thank you again to Chris and DC and TPCI and ESL. And especially the casters, because the casters, the video game casters, stuck around with us to stream those. So thank you to all of them for making that happen for our seniors. So that was really
Awesome.
cool.
That's great.
Other than that, Sunday went really swimmingly. We got all the matches done. We have
Smashing.
3 new champions, 2 of which are from Italy, and 1 is from, I believe, Finland. Um, and then, we got announcements of the dates for Sao Paulo and announcements and locations on the Monday for dates and locations for internationals here and worlds, which I guess we can do in dessert.
Yeah, we can maybe hit that up in dessert. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So let's jump right into the main course.
Good, because I'm hungry.
Nom nom nom.
I mean, when am I
So
not?
Jen hit me up when she was coming back on the aeroplane, plane the Arrow, about
The Luftwaffe.
Luftwaffe. No, not the Luftwaffe. Good lord. But she wanted to talk about special needs in the community, and we're predominantly VGC, but there's also a huge TCG component, and this particular topic impacts both. It impacts player-judge interactions, player-player interactions, judge-parent interactions, uh, tournament operations as a whole, and it's a subject we want to treat with utmost respect, privacy, but at the same time, we want to talk about some of those things that are out there and how we've seen things dealt with and how we've done things in the past. And if there are people in chat and they want to share their experiences or feedback as we're discussing these topics, we welcome that, because we really kind of want to talk about these things because they are a part of our community. And I say they, but it's the people that have needs outside the standard norms. They're a part of the community. They deserve every respect, every thing that's offered to the quote unquote standard player that we need to that we need to just make sure that we're doing everything in our abilities as organizers and judges to, um, to take into account things that to help them be comfortable, to do their best uh, throughout the tournament process. And as judges, we've talked about it before. Fair, fast, fun,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, but along that fair, fast, and fun, um, every person that you'll ever come across um, has different viewpoints, different beliefs, and different needs. And that's where we have to try to balance some of those and do so in a kind and caring way,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can do that. So I've kind of introed it, but Jen, I know you've done a bunch of research, and so I've done some research, and that's just because of my own children, children that we've interacted with throughout the years at different tournaments. So I'll just kind of let you take point, and I'll just kind of follow your lead with regards to kind of the topics that we're going to be discussing.
So basically, excuse me. Basically, it kind of came to light that there may be, specific regions of our community that don't exactly have experience in dealing with the special needs population. So a couple of judges had kind of mentioned that it's not really something that they deal with in Southeast Asia specifically. And the reason that this came up is we had several players kind of picking at tablecloths the entire weekend. And the tablecloths were kind of really thin plastic, and so it didn't really look great. There was like plastic all over the place, and the tablecloths looked terrible. But I know these players, and so I knew why they were doing these things. But on Saturday when we were running the main event, I didn't really have like a chance or a teaching moment to kind of point to it and say, "Hey, this is what's going on here." And then it really came to light when we went over to the side event area. We're running the mid-season for the juniors and seniors, and the judges were kind of like, "This is a mess. Let's talk to these players." And when I came back, they were kind of like talking to the players and whatever. And one of the players went from behaving pretty well for this individual to kind of like leaning over his opponent's DS and kind of, what are you doing? What's going on? You're screen peeking, this and that, and like kind of getting all like agitated and physical with the hands and things like that. And I was just like, ugh, like what's going on? And so I pulled the judge aside and I said, hey, like, didn't you guys realize that this kid picking at this tablecloth was keeping him calm, and it was like his fidgeting kind of coping mechanism? They were just like, what are you talking about? And I was just like, all right. So basically, what I had to do was kind of explain what the situation is with the child. And so what are special needs? Like that's basically the baseline. And so when you go to like the CDC website or any other websites that talk about like learning disabilities or anything like that, special needs is basically an educational requirement, which kind of is weird for me that it's defined that way, but it's like an educational requirement for people that have learning disabilities, physical disabilities, and or emotional or behavioral difficulties. And a lot of the times these things aren't just mutually exclusive, they also go hand in hand in hand. So you could have a player with a learning disability who also has emotional and behavioral difficulties stemming from that, or you could have players that have physical disabilities also with emotional or behavioral disabilities. There's a whole bunch of like things, and a lot of times the key or the key phrase or whatever is like the spectrum, so the kids that are on the autism spectrum. But there's so much more that goes into it. But so like the autism spectrum will cover kids with varying range of autism symptoms, but then also people that are diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, or people that are diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which we have a couple of those in the community that I'm aware of. And then like you expand that out, so these kids also then have sensory processing disorders, so they have difficulty processing all of the information that's coming in a sensory capacity, so sound, light, touch, smell, all of that stuff. So if you sit across from a player and they really don't want to shake your hand, they may be physically incapable of it because the touch of your hand freaks them out. And that may be connected to, say, the actual sensory part of it, or that may be they have OCD or something like that, wherein they don't want to touch you because you have germs. There's so many different things that go into that. And then there's like the learning disabilities that, dyslexia, dysgraphia, kids that unable um, to verbally communicate. And then there's like, the physical disabilities. Obviously, those are the easy ones because usually, your physical disabilities, you can spot them, or the child's in a
Yeah,
wheelchair,
I
or
don't think you mean like easy as in like in terms of severity or things of that nature. It's not like any easier than any other disability, but they're the ones that are more easily spotted and recognized.
right.
Somebody that's in a wheelchair clearly needs, has mobility issues, and I know it came up in a couple of the Facebook groups posts. Somebody with mobility disabilities, mobility needs, static seating is a lot of time provided, so they don't have to wheel the chairs in between the narrow rows. Um, and those are the ones that, from an organizer judge perspective, are uh, easier to understand, comprehend, and identify, quote unquote, fixes or things that you can do to assist. Um, Same thing with a visual audio disability. Um, and then one of the other topics that was brought up earlier too, on the Facebook groups, support animals. Um, the only problem I have with some of the support animals is some of them are so damn cute, and you want to just hug them and pet them, but you
You
can't because
can't.
they're working.
Yeah.
Um, and but making special arrangements for them to have their animal in their space, and sometimes the support animal, you might be doing the same kind of static seating because, if they've got a dog, you don't want them going in between all these different crammed rows and forcing this dog to like cram under a folding chair where everybody's kicking in their bags and all that stuff. So trying to make the animal itself also comfortable, so that in turn their owner and the person that's receiving the support from this animal, and that they have that relationship, and that relationship can actually be beneficial as opposed to detrimental.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And it's definitely something that organizers try to be mindful of, and make accommodations for, and not just the support animals or the players in wheelchairs, but we also see several players who have visual disabilities in the community. Nationals a couple years ago, we had a gentleman um, who was visually impaired. We had a static seat for him for between rounds, and then when his pairing would go up, a judge was set up for him to go and find his pairing, go and collect him, walk him to his table, and then bring him back to his static seat between rounds, because he didn't want a static seat for during the tournament. He preferred it for between the rounds, which was nice. And I think this weekend we also had a gentleman who was hearing impaired. So like Mike said, you get the gamut of the physical disabilities that you can readily identify, but
Now,
how do you handle the other ones?
yeah, and I kind of want to, you know, um, I kind of want to touch on the something that Jen kind of discussed here briefly, but it's been my experience that I never want to assume a person's level of capability with regard to mobility or communications. Um, if I see somebody in a wheelchair, sure, I'm going to assume that it's going to be more difficult to get through certain areas, or somebody that might be on crutches, or if they've got, like you were saying, the visual impairment. um, we might assume that, oh heck, they want to sit at the same table every round, but every person handles their own disabilities, and they have their own level of capabilities, and I've always found it best to never assume myself what a
Yep.
person is capable of doing and what they're not capable of doing. Some people will, like, you know what, like the visually impaired person, he's like, I don't want a static seat.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go sit at whatever table I'm assigned. I might need assistance getting there, So it's always best to identify these people that might have an issue, communicate with them. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you're going to hear a common theme tonight about communication.
Yeah.
Communicate with these people, find out what it is that you can do to assist them,
Mm-hmm.
offer some solutions if they have some concerns, and then work with them, right? Um, Sometimes the things you might offer up in terms of solutions and whatnot uh, might be also in you know for their own benefit, but also for the smooth operation of the tournament. Sometimes you might have to insist on certain things in order to not have your tournament to be affected adversely as well. So there's that balance between running an efficient tournament and supporting the needs of the players and the community at large.
Right. Um, Kind of just getting back to what, not what defines someone with special needs, but kind of the I guess the key things that you may see. Now, some of these things you may see on everyone, but some of them you may see more frequently on special needs kids. And now we're not just talking about the juniors and seniors, because all right, great, there's definitely juniors and seniors that are on the spectrum or have these disabilities, but more so than not, you're going to see a lot of these in your masters as well. And so it's things like, the player across from you avoiding making eye contact, or maybe they're making inappropriate facial expressions, or they don't understand like personal space. Like you may go to a tournament and the player's like all up in your space and like really adamantly talking to you and like physically gesturing and things like that. And they're just talking a mile a minute at your face, and you have no idea why they're doing this because you've just met this person. But that is a big indicator. Um, Having trouble understanding other people's feelings or expressing their own feelings. Um, they may repeat words or phrases. So things like, the one player, like I mentioned, he kept repeating over and over again. You're screen peeking. You're screen peeking. You're screen peeking. Or make a move. Make a move. Make a move. Like that's a big tip as well. A huge one, especially one that I deal with, and I'll get into my own personal experience in a minute. They don't understand jokes, sarcasm, or teasing. So you could say something really sarcastic and they're going to take you absolutely seriously because they are not
Absolutely.
understanding your visual cues. Like they're not going to be able to look at your face or hear your tone of voice and understand that you're making a joke. They just won't get it. And then
Absolutely.
there's,
I'll echo that one a lot. I mean, 100%.
yeah. Um,
Sorry.
like I said, that this is a major one that I've had to deal with, and like I said, I'll get to that. But then there's like other symptoms like hyperactivity. And the player that I mentioned that we had issues with over the weekend, after the whole incident with the table picking, he finished his match or whatever, and then he went off and had one of his fits off in like the open area, and so he was like walking back and forth repeatedly and doing his hand tick and just like doing his thing. And so like things like hyperactivity or impulsivity or even the tics, those things are a huge indication that you're dealing with a child or a person with autism. Short attention span, which really doesn't seem like that would work well in this community, in the video game community, but that's why we tend to see more of them on our side than on the TCG side, because it's hard for them to follow along with the TCG game. And there's things like aggression or self-inflicted injury, temper tantrums, obviously the outbursts, unusual mood or emotional reactions. Like I said, yeah, those outbursts or whatever. And then the sensory processing pieces, the unusual reactions to smell, sound, taste, look, or feel. And a lot of times you'll see parents of the juniors and seniors that have the sensory processing disorders, they'll have headphones for their kids, so that they don't have to worry about the auditory input. But then you'll see players wearing like their hoodies up or their hats, and you may see these things as indications that they may screen peek. And yeah, normally that would be something that would kind of give me a red flag. Oh no, they have this hat on and they have the hood on and they're crouched over, they may be screen peeking. But keep an eye on them through the tournament. That may also be them kind of blocking out their visual stimulation, or even just insulating themselves to provide a safe and comforting environment. So there's a lot of things that you may see one way that you kind of have to think about as other ways. And yes, you're absolutely right. Tantrums are usually meltdowns, but the way that the CDC had it written down was temper tantrums. That's kind of the way that Socially,
I,
they talk about
I
it,
think
but
that's understandable.
meltdowns
Yeah.
is usually how that's referred to in the community.
Yeah, and a little bit more on some of the things that you're highlighting is the physical ticks. Um, Going back to the child that was like you know tugging at
Mm-hmm.
the tablecloths and destroying things. It's not like they're saying, oh, "I'm going to destroy this." Many times, I know just both people that have the uh, either autism or any number of things, including the sensory processing disorders. Um, they need some kind of stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be an auditory type thing, it might be a physical thing, tactical thing. Um, I know my oldest son, he never stops. And sometimes it's frustrating because you could be in a dead silent room and all you hear is his leg going up and down,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or hands tapping on the table, or clicking or fidgeting with something. And to somebody that's not used to it, it could be maddening sometimes. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's just about education and saying, he's really not trying to distract you, or and that's where that player interaction comes. But the the, the the ticks, the fidgeting, that sensory feedback is crucial to help people cope with some of their issues that they might have.
Yep. Yep. It's definitely a coping mechanism that, and one of many, that these people, on the spectrum or people with processing disorders or things like that will do to help them, be able to cope out in the wider world, And I know like people throw down the phrase, OCD a lot, and they think, oh, I'm OCD. You're really not. Like, people that absolutely have OCD, they have these coping mechanisms wherein they have to, whether it's like turn on and off the light switch a certain amount of times, or touch certain things on their way out, or do things in a certain order. Um, those are more on that kind of uh, you know category or whatever. So then the next thing is like, how do you handle these interactions? What can you do, to make sure that you're being, open and sensitive to these players that you may not understand, or may not relate to because they're different than you are. And it comes down to being respectful of everyone. Like, that's a common theme that Mike and I talk about all the time. Like, being respectful for everyone. Understanding that people are going to be different, and the person across from you, like something that I do that I know is a physical tick is, when I'm really nervous or when I'm having a lot of anxiety, I will pull out my eyebrows. And I used to do it in college all the time, and I would be sitting there studying for tests, and I would end up with no eyebrows, and I just couldn't control it. All of a sudden, I'd be sitting there, and there'd be a pile of eyebrow hair or whatever it is, and
Yeah,
you
I've
know,
watched players at big tournaments too. As they're playing, they'll pick at themselves. I
yeah,
saw
yeah,
people picking at their arms or their face, and
yep,
next thing you know, they've got blood, and it's just something that they do. It's a tick. It's something that they do is as a habit, as a relaxation thing, that stimulus that they need, just as a soothing mechanism.
yeah,
And what's important is to recognize, it's like, you don't need to panic that he's made himself bleed, right? Now, is he bleeding all over the table, and is it being, a biohazard? Then you
yep.
might have to say
That's
something, right?
yeah,
But if it's not affecting anybody, then by all means, let it go. And that's one of the things. And again, I come back to communication and what Jen was saying with respect. It's about respecting everybody.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's been a common theme in this community over the past year, trying to get everyone to understand the need for respect, and we're not trying to force you into not expressing your opinions or make you think that your opinions are invalid, whatever it is. But everyone deserves a chance to feel comfortable in this community, and a lot of the people here are here because they have these disorders, and this is the only place that they feel safe or comfortable. For some reason, it seems like an inordinate amount of people with with mental disabilities or physical disabilities or learning disabilities or, you know, anxiety. It runs the gamut. Like, there's so many kids out there that feel comfortable in this community because of who they are. And for, people to now kind of target them or say, nasty things about them, it kind of, it bothers us. So that's
Yeah.
my
And
little.
so we're kind of in these last two bullets, the guidelines for players, judge interactions, and application of penalties if required, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, I might jump a little ahead here, and so just bear with me. But one of the topics that came up in, I think, one of the TCG groups was about players refusing to stream at big events. As you can see, Jen's twirling her pen. Um,
I'll put it
um,
down.
that's okay. Go for it. It's not bothering me.
It's better than
Um,
pulling out my eyebrow, please believe me.
that sounds painful, but
It's really
um,
not. It
so
actually feels
it
kind of
came
good.
up with like I said in that TCG group regarding refusing to be on stream. Uh, so this is where the balance of running an event and a larger event, especially, and I know Vince for Collinsville has already pointed out that just like a NAIC with an official TPCI stream, um, if a player is chosen to go on stream, they have to go.
Yeah.
Um, and I know there's a segment of this community that eh, the thought of going up and being on stream is anxiety inducing. I mean, heebie jeebie loaded. I mean, debilitating.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and dealing with that is a very, very, very difficult thing to do because, in one hand, you're trying to be respectful, understanding, and supportive of the player, but at the same time, there's the tournament slash show slash stream that has to continue, and it's one of those things where by entering the event, that's a good possibility, especially if you're successful, right?
Yeah.
Um, I will share this with that regard. I don't know if you remember last year at London, Jen. I forget the player's name. We were top cut, and he was very anxious about being on stream. So much that we normally keep all of the top cut players that are going to be going on stream kind of corralled in one general area, and they all kind of sit together and they watch stream, and then when their match gets called up, they go around and they do the production. But this player was particularly very anxious, and he requested that he was able to just kind of sit way off on the side of the convention hall. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He sat way off on the side with his brother. It was him and his brother just chilling out on the side, and
I do
you know,
remember that.
yeah, and so we made the accommodation, say that's fine. You can take your personal space, go over there where it's quiet, focus on what you want to do, um, so long as we know exactly where you're at, so that when we need you, you can come. And so, a minor concession to help alleviate some of that anxiety and that stress um, and some of that pressure so he can unwind and not have that in total buildup. Um, but at the same time, he was available so that we could put him on stream when we needed to, and that the show and the stream and the tournament could progress at the natural pace of things.
Right. And it's difficult. Gabby just pointed out, is there anything that they can do on the caster side or on the, production side to not make it as anxiety inducing? And that's really a hard call because, the nature of it, the fact that you're on stage, you're under those hot lights, um, everyone in the hall can see you, plus it's like a big production. And then you're going live out to the entire world. Like, there's really not much that we can do. What I like to tell the judges is to kind of chat with the players, make them feel comfortable, try and crack jokes, ask them how they're doing, ask them what's going on. Having the players having their favorite plush with them tends to help. Just kind of disarming them a little bit and making it not so not so awkward for them. That can
Right.
help, but sometimes the anxiety is just so high. There's absolutely nothing you can do. These players are going to absolutely destroy themselves, and we've seen it before where you get to a certain point and it's like, well, why did they make those calls, why did they make those plays? The obvious thing was to do this, and that's great for you at home who's not sitting there under the hot light and being all
Yeah.
anxious about how they're playing. But
Just eating your Doritos.
exactly, like these kids are, they're absolutely freaking out. Internally they're probably screaming at the top of their lungs because
Yeah.
they're
Not to
they're
mention
on
the
the
white
spot.
noise.
Oh God, and this is one of my hugest pet peeves. And so if you know me, over the past 3 years since I've been doing doing the larger events and interacting with the stream, I will absolutely go over to production no matter what my job is. I don't care. I overstep because I know that I need to stick up for these kids. I will go over to production and I will put those headphones on and I will test that white noise because I think it may have been NAIC last year or
I think so. I think it
Nationals two
was.
years ago. May have been Nationals 2 years ago, but the white noise was, oh my God, so grating. It was awful, and I wanted to tear my own ears off at listening to it. And the players the first round were like, "Is there any way that we can change this?" And so I kicked up a fuss and made them change it. And they were like, "Oh, it's not loud enough now, and it's not whatever, whatever." And I'm just like, "Listen, these kids have sensory processing issues. You're gonna get someone there who's gonna have an auditory meltdown." And they're just going to be a total disaster, and that's not fair to these kids because they can't refuse to be on stream. So at least do me a favor, ask them if the white noise is okay. And so to Gabby's question, make sure production asks them if the white noise is okay, if they're okay with the sound. And if you can, I know that ESL in the States, and I'm almost positive ESL in Australia, they can change the kind of white noise that's being played to make the players feel a little bit more
Yeah.
comfortable. Not
Um,
much you can do about the lights, unfortunately. Maybe let the player leave
yeah.
their hat on or whatever.
One of the things I've noticed too is I've been at a number of different productions with either official streams or grassroots streamers at regionals and higher. Um, the ones where the players seem to be the most comfortable is where that whole stage sitting area where they're actually playing is completely separated. You can't see the crowd. It's completely behind the curtains. You know what I'm talking about? As
Yeah,
compared to
so
like
yeah,
NAIC or Worlds where it's like, I'm sitting here and 10 feet away are like
the
hundreds of
crowd.
chairs
Yeah.
where people are watching me in addition to the light, in addition to the cameras, in addition to the camera guy going like this every 10 seconds into your face. But like I think last year Madison, I know Daytona, the streaming table itself was like behind the black curtains. It
I
was
think
completely separated and kind of isolated.
I think now that's going to only be possible with the grassroots stream. Like we saw in Dallas, Dallas had a completely separate walled off area for the stream area, which was nice because you're kind of in it's a quiet space, which I know a lot of people with sensory processing disorders need. So that it was a quiet space where they can go and they can play. But like Mike said, NAIC and higher, the official cast productions, those are going to be
More the
on the
open front.
stage, right? And
Yeah.
what a couple of the players had to do on the video game side is the way that we had the IR port set up on one of the tables. It was actually pointed out towards the crowd, so the player actually had to swing their chair around and point at it, so their back was to the crowd, which I think helped a couple of them. They had no they had no option really because they needed to keep their IR ports lined up with the IR port for their opponent through the table and the mechanism. So they physically had to keep their chair facing backwards, which was fine because then production just kind of swung the camera around. And so I think maybe if organizers and judges are okay with it, allowing the players to kind of sit with their back towards the audience area or the camera area, I think that may help some of them. Maybe not for everyone, but
So
that could be a
here's kind of an
consideration.
odd thought, Jen. Just kind of playing off of that. What do you think the odds might be if in the future to help accommodate people that have like an anxiety of having all these people staring at them, uh, kind of like a dressing screen, if you will, right? That they could put up
Mm-hmm.
in front of the table for certain matches, like a privacy screen of some sort with like a Pokeball on it or something. so that you could see that the match is going on. There's players behind there, but there's some sense of protection and privacy between them and the play groups. I don't know, that's completely 100% on TPCI and ESL and production, and I don't know how that would go over, but um, definitely some things to just kind of think about.
It's definitely something that that the official stream could look into, but unfortunately, a lot of their production is 360 based, so they're recording from all angles, and I don't know if a
Sure.
screen would be something that's possible or even probable. I think so. The world stage actually this past year wasn't so bad because it was pretty dark back there.
Mm.
Um, so that and it was set back, it was dark, it was kind of set back, it was not so much, hey, everybody on the audience, watch everybody there, just it was mostly just watch the screen situation, so that may have been a little bit better than say something like what we had in Australia, where it was like bright lights up on the stage, everybody's watching. So I know that the lights weren't great for production. They had to do what they needed to do for that end of it. And I know it was more of like a mood lighting than anything, but that's a consideration too. You know,
Hmm.
Sunglasses are definitely allowed, Gabby. I know that we've allowed players to wear sunglasses before, so it's possible that that could be allowed on official stream if that's something that players want to ask. And I think it comes down to the players feeling comfortable asking for these accommodations when you get to the live stream portion of it. Letting the players know that it's okay for them to ask for what they need, that we're not going to ridicule them or dismiss their opinions or needs. Um,
Right.
and again, it's not like they have the very obvious physical disabilities that we have to contend with. So we're not going to approach them unless we feel like they're coming off nervous. But that's stream. We really need to talk about the player to player interactions, the player to judge
Yeah.
interactions, and then how the parents come into this. So, Mike, do you want to start on this one?
Sure. I can start from two perspectives, and one is the judge player interaction, and the judge parent kind of interaction. I'd like to kind of a little bit talk about. From a judge player interaction, again, it comes back to the communication and respect. Um, Even in the midst of a breakdown, or an outburst, it's important, especially as a judge, to maintain your own composure as best as you can. Um, Communicate with the player, whether it's a child or a young adult, because I'm an old person now. Um, and if they have somebody with them, a parent or a guardian, uh, normally they're nearby,
Mm-hmm.
and have that compassion. I know we, especially at higher level events, we really try to keep parents and guardians, away. But in sometimes some of these events, there needs to be kind of this mental break. This, okay, let's take a pause for a moment. Make note of how much time is being used to kind of regain control of the situation. Bring the player over to the parent or guardian, or have the parent or guardian come nearby, um, and have discussions. Find out what you can do to assist, and but at the same time, like I said, keeping the tournament moving.
Right.
Uh, it's important, and sometimes if you see some of these players that you see from one tournament to the next, um, identifying these players that might have special needs or special circumstances or things that help keep them calm, with the rest of your staff who may not have seen these players before. Say, hey, this is Billy, or this is Susie, and Susie has a particular tick to, she kind of pulls on the tablecloths, and she might end up ripping them, but they're okay because these are tablecloths that are getting thrown away anyways, right? But it helps keep her calm, and it's not necessarily something that we need to be overly concerned with. Um, the contrary is, if we don't let her do the self-soothing type things, we're going to have Susie, the angry player, and outbursts and disruptive, where we're interrupting multiple matches.
Right.
Uh, so again, it's that communication from a judge to a player, and regardless of age, regardless of the behavior, it's about the respect and communication. Uh, amongst all the parties that are involved.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And a lot of parents, and myself in particular, I always used to do this when I was, before I started actively judging every event. Parents come up to the judges or they identify who the head judge is for their child's division. So you may, head judge a junior or senior division, and you're going to have a parent come up to you at the beginning of the event and introduce themselves and say, my son Johnny has special needs and I'm going to be sitting right over there. So anytime you need assistance with him, I'm over here, or this is what he goes through. I used to do this with my son, and I'll actually kind of, if you don't mind, Mike, I'll segue a little bit into why this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So my son Ian is 13. Some of you may know him from events or from interacting with me. But we actually got involved in the Pokemon community because he is special needs, not for any, not for any like particular birth defect or anything like that. Ian actually drowned when he was 2 years old, and had significant brain damage, which because of the nature of the 2 year old brain, the brain has a function called plasticity, and so a lot of the brain that had kind of been in formation for other things took over for the damaged areas, to become things like autonomic regulation of breathing and motor functions and things like that, instead of maybe becoming things like I can relate to people on a personal level, or I can regulate my own behavior, things like that. And so Ian's actually developmentally delayed by 2 years. He's got learning disabilities. He has sensory processing issues. He has very hard time interacting with people on a social level. You wouldn't know this because he's so outgoing and he wants to be everybody's friend, but he has all of those things that I mentioned before. He doesn't understand jokes, which we've been working on. He's finally getting a grasp on sarcasm, which I've been heavily working on.
What?
Yeah. He's starting to learn like personal space boundaries, that kind of stuff. Um, but there's kids that you know that they're off, and Ian's one of those kids. You know that they're off. You know that there's something not quite right. And those are the kids that you kind of have to watch out for. They may be the kids that are on the spectrum or have the disabilities, and so that's kind of why this is my area. And why I wanted to do this topic, because I've a lot of personal experience as a parent of a child, and at these tournaments. But that's kind of my story. So that's kind of the parent interaction. The parents are going to come to you a lot of the times and tell you that this is what you have to be on the lookout for, and don't be afraid to ask. What are their visual cues? That's a huge one. What are their visual cues? The parents are going to love you if you ask that. What are their visual cues? How will I know there's something wrong with them? And they'll tell you, because every parent will know what those things are. What are their triggers? What are their visual cues? If you want to offer their static seating, if you want to tell Johnny's mom, hey, I'm cool if we put Johnny at table 1 so that you can stand over there and be relatively easy to access, or Johnny can look out and see you. That's cool. um, whatever you can do to kind of allay the parents' fears and make sure that the child is okay and doesn't disrupt the rest of the
Right.
tournament around them.
Yeah. And and sometimes too, I know I've had players, especially younger ones, where they had particular phrases that were used to help that player remember to calm down, or to do certain activities, like, hey, use your whatever it is, use this tool that you have. And I use the word tools because um, my own kids versus and the other children, sometimes they have tools to
They have
help
their
them cope
tools.
with
Yep.
different situations.
Yep.
So say, hey, Billy, let's use your whatever tool, let's use this, or remember this. And sometimes all they need is that reminder to engage certain things. Or I've seen some kids that are like, they really need the headphones, right? And sometimes they just forget to put them on, and they
Yeah.
start getting worked up and worked up and worked up, and you could just see it, and the visual cues or the audio cues that you're hearing from them.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes all it is, hey, it looks like you forgot your headphones, and they're like, oh yeah, and they put on the headphones, and then they're zoned in on the game, and everything's better. Not to say that's the cure-all for everything, but sometimes those are the things that they just need, those gentle reminders. And And again, like Jen pointed out, it all comes back to communication. Communicating with the parent and the players um, to understand that. And I've said it a couple times. I'm just going to echo it one more time. In addition to the communication, it's about that respect. Um, Talking down, um, belittling, or making fun of the situation does two things. It makes the situation worse, most 99.9% of the time. And two, you've lost all credibility and respect as an organizer and as a judge at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Even if you may not sense that from the player or the parent guardian, I guarantee you, for on my staff, and I see demeaning, belittling responses or behavior towards a player. And and that goes for whether they have a special need or not. Um, One, you're going to get talked to, if not yelled at, in private. Um, and depending upon the severity of the infraction, you might have an immediate expulsion.
And most likely nobody will ever want to work with you again. That's the bottom line there.
True.
You'll get a reputation.
Absolutely. So again, I say this in the premise of our overall topic, but I mean that goes for every player interaction that you have. Okay, but in particular those with special needs, sometimes they need a little extra compassion sometimes, because so many people that they run across don't have that compassion, and that's the part of judging some of these things that you really need to bring to the table. Did we really touch on player-to-player interactions?
Well, I think the player to player interactions really comes down to the respect of it. Like if a player has special needs and they're not making eye contact, or you know they don't want to touch you, like they don't want to shake your hand, um, making fun of them for not wanting to shake your hand is really not the appropriate response. If you can tell someone's awkward and you've stuck out your hand and they may not want to shake your hand, you're still allowed to look at them and say good game and walk away from that and be cool about it. Not everybody wants to touch you, and especially me. I don't want to touch you because we had the flu going around in Oceania, and like half the people there ended up with the flu. Like I think one of the casters, Ray Rizzo, ended up sick on Sunday, as well. It's like people were taken down by it, and so just because somebody doesn't want to shake your hand doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. They may be,
Yeah, and
I'm not getting
along
your
that
germs.
line, along that lines, it seems like some of our younger players have a particularly hard time with some of that as well, because uh, an 8, 9, sometimes even 10-year-old sitting across from another child that's having a problem or an outburst, you know, especially if they haven't been exposed to this community or somebody else that has similar issues or needs. Um, and I've seen children do this where like one's having an outburst and the other kid just goes, "What the heck is wrong with that kid?"
Yeah.
And you're just like you're like they just need a moment, right? And trying to keep, and I guess from a judge's perspective, trying to keep the other child or the other player calm as well also helps that situation. And trying to explain to another player, it's like, you know keeping them calm, because now they're getting antsy because plays aren't being made, or there's a delay in the match, or they're in between games and they're running out of time. It's like, hey, look, you know what, it's gonna be okay. Reassuring both players, it's gonna be okay. We'll figure out what's gonna happen. We'll do the best that we can to take care of the situation, and we'll progress the best that we can, right?
Right.
And that includes both parties. So if you are a player and you don't have the experience with this type of behavior, respect and patience.
Yeah.
If you have a question, ask, and just be a good person. Please,
Please.
please.
um,
That's what it really runs down to. And again, don't ever assume that you know what that person can and can't do.
right.
Never assume what they need. You can offer assistance, ask what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a player and somebody's having an issue, be like, hey, I can tell you're having an issue here. What can I do to help you?
Yeah.
Let's get a judge over here. Let's figure out what's going on. Just be supportive, understanding, caring.
I think that also applies not only to the players and to the staff, but to the parents as well. A lot of times, when these players show up, they tend to have a reputation, um, and the parents are really not kind either. It'll be like, well, I don't want my Johnny to play that kid because they're always having outbursts or they're always accusing him of screen peeking or whatever, whatever. And it's, you know, the parents have to be nice about it too. Like these are
Sure.
these are kids. Like be respectful of these kids too, and maybe educate your own child. If you don't understand it, maybe educate yourself. Go and talk to that player's parent and see if there's anything that you can do to understand or to help or whatever. There's a lot of things that we have to be mindful of. Especially as parents, that
Yeah.
it's not just your kid that's at this tournament. Everyone else's kid is there to have a good time too. And
Yeah.
just because Johnny is accusing your son of screen peeking doesn't mean that he's trying to be rude or manipulative or trying to give your kid a reputation. Maybe Johnny just can't handle his outburst.
Yeah. And I've actually, it's been my experience that if you communicate clearly and compassionately, um, most of these situations can be de-escalated, at least to the point where people are not angry and running around and
Right.
being completely upset, and just treating everybody just like everybody else. Um, you know, you don't necessarily need to put on kid gloves all the time
Right.
with somebody that has some issues. Especially if they're having a great day. And some people have good days, some people have bad days, and that's everybody. And this, no, no different for these people that have uh, special needs.
Right.
And if they're having a great day, hey, they're just like everybody else. And even on their bad day, they're just like everybody else, but they just need a little extra time.
I
They
mean,
need some
is there like, and
help.
I've been very hesitant to use the word normal because normal is
I
a
know I
relative
hate that
term.
word.
Like I hate that word because like who doesn't have anxiety out there? Who doesn't have insecurities? Who doesn't have moments where they've gone 8 rounds in a tournament and they're absolutely physically exhausted or they're mentally exhausted. It's so
Chuck Norris.
taxing on, well, Chuck Norris, but Chuck Norris is not normal. Okay, he's not normal. But it's like, and Corey, like even the word typical, I hate using those words because everyone has their failing. Everyone has
Does
their thing that
Yeah.
they have to be mindful of. And so like top players, like I'm gonna reference Tommy Cooleen here. Tommy and I talk about this all the time. The mental and the physical stamina needed to get through a 9 round tournament is absolutely real. And you could be medically normal, not be on the spectrum and not be, have any of these things. And you're still going to have struggles with
Yeah.
the mental and the physical fatigue of a 9 round tournament. And you're still going to need to exhibit some self care. And
Yeah.
everyone does. And that's why, I struggle to use the word
Yeah.
normal or typical because we're
Does
all feeling these things at a tournament. Me
Yeah.
especially, because I'm usually exhausted.
Yeah. Those words just basically, um, it just basically presumes that everybody has that there's a bucket, that if you don't conform to this bucket, you're
Right,
not normal, right?
right,
And just because you don't conform to these buckets, or you have needs that, um, you need assistance with certain things, or certain things irritate you or excite you, doesn't mean that you have to be in this bucket. And that's where that normal or typical type phrasing comes into play. And I hate using that, and that's why sometimes you'll hear me say, like, what society deems as normal, or you know those kinds of things. And I just, the word normal and typical just really are just mind-boggling to me. But sometimes you have to use it in some regards in order to put some kind of frame of reference. Maybe you're not like a whole bunch of other people sitting at the table, but it just doesn't mean that you, um, Like, uh, I'm just
So
like,
down to the
how do you explain
last
something like
bullet,
that?
let's down to the last bullet. How do we still apply the appropriate penalties? You do, because
Yeah,
at the end of the day, everyone is has to adhere to the penalties. Say if somebody has an emotional outburst and is physically aggressive with someone, if you know that this player has special needs or they've hit their breaking point or whatever, that's at your discretion to maybe be a little bit softer on your ultimate ruling or kinder on your ultimate ruling, and maybe give the warning instead of the game loss. But I think it comes down to judging each individual instance separately or
yes,
in their own way. If you know that Johnny's had a hard day and whatever, and he's just had a meltdown because he just at his wits end, separate him from the situation, take him on the
yeah,
side, let him calm down, give him a quiet space, get him water, get him a snack, whatever he needs. And then give him a couple minutes, obviously not 10 minutes if it's in the middle of a round, but give
yeah,
him time to kind of collect himself and let him know, like, this is not acceptable. I understand that you couldn't control yourself, but we really need to try and do better. Just talk to people like they're a human being. Have some
yeah,
empathy about things. And hey, there's going to be judges that are on the spectrum, and they may be having these issues too. They may be having difficulties. And
yeah.
so
And
go ahead.
in the past where I've come close to having to issue, a fairly severe penalty, um, it was diffused by the fact that you could communicate with the player, communicate with the guardian or parent that's with them, and say, look, this is what's happening right now. We're giving him the opportunity to remain calm. I would like to give them a short break so they can collect themselves. But and then be very clear about the path forward from there, right? At this point, we are doing this. If the behavior continues or we can't resolve the issue at hand, it's going to be this.
Right.
If we go beyond that point, it's going to be this. Ultimately leading through the different escalation of penalties, right? Um, and by laying this pathwork out and telling them what they need to do in order to, avoid these penalties, often, gives them the insight of, okay, I need my number one priority is to get them calm, or to get them to listen, or to get them to be at the right place at the right time, or to not, bang on the table every time something doesn't go their way because it's distracting, interrupting the other place. Um, so the communication, identifying um, the progression of the penalties and what needs to happen in order to avoid this escalation of penalties is critical
Right.
in terms of applying these penalties.
Right. But ideally, and to maintain the fairness of the tournament, everyone is accountable for the penalties. You know.
Absolutely.
Um, I think we hit everything that I had on my notes issues here.
Yeah, we did, and again,
I mean, there's
in
so much. There's so much you could
in
talk about.
in addition to Jen and I not being, employees of the Pokemon Company, neither of us have a medical degree or a sociology degree or psychology degree or any of those types of things. It's just from our own personal experiences and talking with people and doing these tournaments for a number of years now with a whole variety of people from around the world's different cultures, different physical and mental needs.
Right.
Uh, am I an expert? No, I will not claim to be. And but the only thing that I can share with everybody listening is, in my experience, it really boils down to communication and respect.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit of patience.
A lot of patience.
Yeah, but but again, if you can have those two things in mind as you deal with any situation, think through them, be patient, be respectful, and try to see it from that player's side. from through their lens, what is it that they need, and try to be helpful as best you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If there's anything that we haven't covered on this topic that you guys want us to talk about, we could definitely cover it in another segment. You can message us, on our respective Twitters, on Facebook, wherever you want to message us. And like I said on the PokéDad, oh my God, your cat is adorable. Everybody, that's Mochi. Isn't she cute? She, right? He? Oh, oops. Anyway, but yeah, like I mentioned on the PokéDad group, I'm going to be trying to get this as a topic for NAIC judge seminar, because I think that it's important for judges to learn about this kind of stuff. So I think we will segue into dessert now, right? We're heading that way?
Yeah. One last thing before we segue into dessert.
Mm-hmm.
We talked mostly about some of the hidden things, and we talked a little bit about the more visible needs. One thing that it came up in the Facebook group kind of late. Let's just talk about, just real quickly, the every judge, when you go to a big tournament, should know some basic first aid as well.
Yes.
Okay. Like, how many people out there know how to handle somebody that's gone into a seizure?
Probably not very many.
Not many, right? And I know the first thing many people do, just go, whoa.
Yeah.
And just completely panic, right? So there are things that you can do, things that you shouldn't do. So if you're going to be a judge, especially at some of these higher level tournaments where lots of people, you never know, people with seizures, diabetes, they can have all kinds of symptoms and medical needs, all the way down to just heat, dehydration, lack of food, because some of these players, they will starve themselves, dehydrate themselves, and next thing you know, they're passing out, and it's a mess, right?
Yeah, Gabby and I got into that a little bit in my chat, the idea of self-care, and I think maybe we'll do a topic on that in a future episode. Self-care is a huge thing that
absolutely.
people don't do.
I think that'd be a great topic.
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about that. And I just highly recommend people in general just keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So desserts. Sorry.
No, you're good. So this weekend, Mike is going to be your head judge for the St. Louis / Collinsville regionals, and Collinsville regionals is going to be a horse of a different color. Let's put it that way. A horse of a different color, because Vince has gotten the Pokemon Company to agree to allow him to run the first ever regionals, or at least on the North American side, Professor Seminar / Professor Cup. And so on Friday, it's not open to the public anymore. I think all the seats are taken up, right, Mike? Everything is taken up.
Yeah, I don't know. Sure, honestly, if you're interested, go to Poke Regionals, their website, and they'll have all the information on there.
Yeah. So so Friday, I think he's streaming it. As a matter of fact, I don't know what channel it's going to be on, but
haven't heard.
Professor
But yeah, it's
Seminar,
supposed to be streamed.
10 a.m. at St. Louis Regionals. Mike is going to be doing a topic on video game, and there's going to be a bunch of TCG topics as well. And then there's going to be a Professor Cup, which is basically like a TCG tournament that's a different kind of style of event, where it's like a specific
it's like
format.
Thunderdome for Pokemon.
Welcome to Thunderdome. Anyway, I love that movie.
2 Professor enter,
1 Professor leave.
They should make a Thunderdome Professor Cup. That would be fun.
Can we do that? That would be awesome.
Only if you dress up like Tina Turner.
Yes, I'll do it. Give me the chain thing and the dress and the hair. Yes, I'll do it. I'll dress up as Tina Turner. You got it.
Oh, my eyes.
Anyway, so that's Friday. Saturday is the event, Saturday and Sunday, out in Collinsville. I will not be there, unfortunately, because various reasons. One being I didn't want to try and take the time off of work, and then all that kind of flights are $600 to Collinsville. But anyway, so you're actually, Mike, like I said, Mike's going to be your head judge on VG. Who's your head judge in TCG? Do you know? Is it Master Blaster?
I don't remember. Ugh.
Master Blaster rule Thunderdome.
You're such a wacko.
That was one of my favorite movies. I love Tina Turner. I saw her in concert. She sung the Thunderdome song. I can't, no. Anyway, so there's actually going to be a stream this weekend, and I have permission to let you guys know that the Critical Hit group, so Critical Hit GG and Critical Hit / TCG or whatever it is, I'll put the links in channel, or someone will. Actually, I don't think. Gabby. Gabby is one of the moderators. If Gabby can get the links for the Twitch for Critical Hit, TCG, and VG, that would be great. They're going to be streaming this weekend. It's fantastic. You guys should watch if you're not going. There we go. Awesome. Thank you, Gabby. And also on Malmo Regionals, that's happening over in the European side of things. Malmo is also going to be streamed, and I think that's going to be Limitless TCG that's streaming that. And I believe Billa and Marcus from Germany are going to be the casters on that. So that's Limitless TCG. That link I think Patrick Donegan put up earlier. Let me scroll back and see. There's their website. I'll copy paste that in here. So yeah, so that's Limitless TCG. They'll be doing the Malmo one. So you'll have some really great streams this weekend from your regional championships. You're going to have a really great head judge on your VG events for St. Louis. And I'll be cheering you all from at home. Yay. Mike, you have any other events coming up soon?
Those are the big ones. I know in our local area here, I'm trying to line up. The problem is venue. I'm just trying to get that settled in. But hopefully in March, I'm going to try to do a 2-day back-to-back mid-season showdown with me and Derek Farber. It'll be a Saturday, Sunday,
cool,
back-to-back kind of thing. So if you're in the Midwest looking for some points here in the Fort Wayne area, keep your eyes open on Twitter. Just trying to solidify my venue.
Let me know when you do that in March so I don't schedule mine for the same weekend. Because I know my players like to drive out.
Seriously? This far?
A bunch of my players have driven out to Fort Wayne for stuff before. So.
Okay. Well, maybe for a back-to-back
mid-season. Yeah, they would probably. Yeah, so let me know when that's happening. On my end,
alrighty.
I'm going to start doing PCs again because I haven't done PCs since October.
Ambitious.
Yeah, right? So I've got a Sunday PC coming up in March,
cool.
and a Sunday PC in April, both at King's Games. And then I think my summer mid-season is going to be Saturday, May 5th, which I think is the same weekend as, what is that? Costa Mesa is March. There's something going on the first weekend in May, and I don't remember what it is, and I don't have my notes. But yeah, and then no, it wouldn't be. I wouldn't put it on Toronto because all my players would go up to Toronto.
Okay.
Salt Lake City. That's it. Thank you, Justin. Salt Lake City. It's the same weekend as Salt Lake City. So yes, it's on Cinco de Mayo. I will be doing a Cinco de Mayo PC. I mean, not a mid-season. So PCs.
Everybody
Sunday,
has to use Ludicolo.
No. Sunday, March 4th, Sunday, April 8th for King's Games. That's Brooklyn. I have not scheduled anything for Toget yet. I emailed them trying to get it mid-season for April so that I can get them over with. And because Ian graduates in June and I don't need to be dealing with any of that crap. Yes, Salta Lake City.
Salta Lake City? He talk like a man.
Anyway, so I think that's it for our show. Mike, you got anything else that you
yeah, before we sign off, I'm just going to say if you are in Collinsville, St. Louis, whatever you want to call it, this weekend, come by, say hi. I'm a friendly kind of guy.
That all rhymed. That was cute.
I did not mean to make that sound like a used car salesman. I'm sorry. If you're there, come say hi. I would love to hear you chat with you. If you have, and
he's got a really nice Buick Skylark 1973 for you to look at.
Again, like if you have anything you just want to chat about, grab me during one of our downtimes. Obviously don't try to chat me up during check-in and battle box locking because that's a bad time. But if there's a little bit of downtime and you catch me, just bend my ear. That's cool. I'm always ears. Always ears. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But
You're
just
hilarious
come
tonight,
talk to me if
man.
you want.
Mike really wants you to
me.
come and talk to him, but he's really awkward, and so he's
lonely.
doing a really crappy job of telling you to come and talk to him.
I'm lonely.
Oh my god.
For the love of God, talk to me.
Come and give Mike hugs and maybe show him one of your
hugs.
pictures of him. Oh god, I wish I had one of your pictures
space.
in here now.
Personal
God
space.
damn it. All my
you
pictures
can talk,
are...
but no hugs. But other than that, I want to say thank you for listening in tonight. It's a great topic for discussion, and we might touch on it a little bit again when we talk a little bit about self-care, because I think that's another great topic, and I'm actually kind of excited. Thanks again. Do you have anything else, Jen?
Nope, that's it. Just have a great weekend this weekend, and yeah, say hi to Mike.
All right. Remember, communicate, be respectful, and come talk to me.
Please talk to him. He's lonely. Oh. You have to bring your cat to Collinsville. That's it, I've decided. Bring your cat to Collinsville.
No. All right. Thanks again, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.